and welcome to another episode of Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna, and that is Kelly.
Hey.
Before we get started, we wanted to remind you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as review us on iTunes. We shout out all of our 5-star reviews at the end of the show, so if you left one this week, make sure you check out.
My name is Sarah Connor.
Critics rave. Linda Hamilton is back and better than ever.
The day has come.
In the best Terminator since T2.
We don't win this one, it's all over.
Terminator Dark Fate. Rated R. In theaters Friday.
At the end to listen to us say thank you.
We're one review away from 100 reviews. Be
Oh,
that
yeah?
100th reviewer.
You've been peeping them reviews?
Yeah.
You could be the 100th one.
But I don't have iTunes, so I can just see how many we have and the rating.
Oh, you can't read them?
No, I don't know anything.
That's okay. Everyone thinks we giggle too much.
That is the best
And I
review
laugh
ever.
at that.
Great. That is like that. I'm not even mad.
That's basically the same to me as saying, hey, I hate women and I think I need to make them feel less than.
Well, yeah, because they giggled too much.
Yeah. They're either giggling or they're too sensitive or they're too bitchy.
Or they're
3
bleeding.
categories.
Yeah.
So that's us. If you want to say something like that on iTunes, make sure you just don't bother. And then move on to a podcast you like and say something nice about them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Anyway, I don't know. I was just, it's free entertainment. I want to say nice things. I think one of my half-yearly, whatever, it's August. So
Half-yearly?
like eighth month of the year. My August resolution is to leave more reviews on iTunes.
Oh, cool.
I'm personally trying to do that because there's a ton of podcasts I listen to that I haven't left reviews for.
Yeah.
And I want to say something positive about them because they entertain me for free, you know? Like a lot of people support their favorite podcasts on Patreon, which is awesome. But also it's really nice to just say something nice about the podcast you listen to and the entertainment you get from it. Because a lot of the podcasters are indie podcasters like us. There's some of them that are backed by these huge companies. That's wonderful. Good for them. But there's other ones that are like, indie and trying to make it work, even though they have a job and kids and all this other stuff going on. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
That's my August resolution.
Wait, it's mine too. I'm just going to copy you.
Can you copy paste all of my reviews?
Yeah, I do what I do. Yeah, just scratch out Brianna.
Right.
Kills.
Anyway, sorry, that was a little off topic. So we want to say thank you to all of our reviewers from this week. So listen to the end of the show and we will say thank you to everybody that reviewed. As always, the description and show notes for each episode will contain some research material that I use for the story. So if you want to look into some of the articles that I read over, you can do some further reading on your own by clicking on those links. You could also find resources for victims in our show notes and description. We will have CPS, suicide prevention hotlines, any mental health resources, domestic violence resources, and a bunch of other things, anti-bullying and stuff. So there will be a bunch of links in there if you need some resources and need some help and someone to talk to. Click on those. And lastly, we will also have some timestamps for when the story tonight gets a little bit gruesome, a little bit violent. So if you want to skip over those parts, you could just check out the description and the timestamps will be in there so you can fast forward or turn it up.
Yeah, turn it up.
Whichever kind of creature you are, choose a lane. And then before we get started, the last thing we want to do is shout out some Patreon supporters for this week.
What?
We put up a couple new bonus episodes. So if you haven't checked those out and you are a supporter on Patreon, head over there and listen to a couple bonus episodes. So this week, our Patreon supporters that are new are Kay, Jasmine, Michelle, and Paul. So thank you to you guys.
Thanks, guys.
I also want to point out a couple things. Jasmine specifically left a donation of $6.66.
Oh, what?
So she is thebomb.com, as the cool kids say. So thank you, Jasmine. We love you.
Remember when a pack of cigarettes used to cost that much?
No. It was like $3 at the donut store.
Oh, you're older than me.
When I was really little.
Coffee
like,
and
hey,
donuts.
mister, you got any of them cigarettes? And they're like, $3, kid. That's how it went down.
Scamper on.
And then also I wanted to say thank you to Paul, because Paul also left a message on our Patreon and sent a message to our Facebook, and it was really sweet. And I think he's going to be starting his own show too. So we will keep you posted on that. But we wanted to say thank you to Paul for being so sweet. I think that's going to be it.
Story time?
It's story time.
Ooh.
Boy, is it ever. And I have a short one today. It's a little bit shorter than usual, and I feel like I say that every week, but this time I mean it. So we have moved on from letter P, and we're going to be on letter Q. So we're going to do some Queensland, Australia murders.
Not quantum physics.
No, although that would be fantastic.
Queensland. I don't know anything about Queensland, so
I don't either,
me.
but I know that there's some murders that happen there, and I'm about to tell you about them.
I like it already.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about the area, but we've done I think 1 or 2 Australian murders, and everything else is mostly U.S. So I figured something different, right?
You want to branch out?
Yeah, I want to see the world.
Let's stamp our passports.
Exactly,
Our murder passports.
So we are going to be talking about Barrie Watts and Valmae Beck.
Cool. Who are they?
I'm going to tell you. So they were an Australian couple. Shocking, right? And they had recently come to Queensland. To be honest, I couldn't find too much information. Usually I try and start with someone's childhood, but that didn't happen here. So it started with them meeting each other.
Sweet.
Barrie was 35. He was a criminal by all accounts, heavily tattooed.
Just kidding.
He was on the criminal island. And he met an older woman, Valmae, who was 10 years older than him. And I hate describing women like this, but people did describe her as a little bit heavier and homely. And I hate to put that out there, but
more cushion for the pushing, bro.
She got that thickness.
She baked some cakes.
So today she would have been super popular.
Yeah.
Just wasn't your time, Valmae. It wasn't your time. Just wait and be on Instagram.
Yeah. Like, good for her for being a thick-ass woman and getting some hot young piece of ass.
Right? Being a thick old cougar.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking of a big, thick cat now.
What are you feeding that cat? I know. I hate describing women in that way, but it just seems like, in all accounts, it kind of played a role in their relationship. I don't like discussing other people's body, but she herself would admit to feeling extremely insecure about her body.
Yeah.
And that's why I mention it, is because she always played this very passive role in their relationship, and she put him on a pedestal and thought that she wasn't good enough because of how she viewed her body.
Okay. Yeah, I guess describing people, I guess it doesn't make sense unless it's like, if you just give them the regular description of what they look like, cool. But if it has nothing to do with the story and you're just being negative about it, like, I'll tell you, she got huge tits, man. And it's, it's not that I'm just being a dick, but like, yo, this lady had huge tits and she came in the store.
Dem titties.
Dem titty, so.
Yeah, it does seem like it comes out of nowhere, and there are so many stories where they talk about women's bodies in a way where it's not relevant at all. But Valmae herself would say that this was something relevant to their relationship. So that's why I bring it up, even though I feel really awkward doing so and I don't want to. She herself would say that, so that's why I included it. I still feel bad.
No, that's perfect. That was perfect. Wait.
So because she was older and she had some insecurities, she was always in this passive role, and she would always defer to him. In turn, this kind of bolstered his confidence and made him take on a more powerful role and lead their relationship in a certain direction. This dynamic formed in their relationship where he was extremely dominant, and he had sort of a criminal history, and her past was that she was a mother of 6 children. So she met this younger dude that was a criminal, and basically, because of her insecurity and some of the things that she had going on, would just follow his lead and do anything he asked and follow him to the end of the earth, basically.
Hey, deal make you go crazy sometimes, man.
I know, right?
Especially when you're like not at your summer body best.
When you're at your the glove don't fit, you must have quit kind of winter body.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, what about, did she just ditch the kids to go fucking break?
Exactly. Yeah. By all accounts, she pretty much abandoned all 6 children.
Holy
Her
shit.
oldest was a teenager. She had a teenage daughter that was the oldest. And I don't know if that daughter started taking care of the kids or
And
what
Shameless
the deal
happened.
was. Yeah. Right? It's the Gallaghers. Yeah. So she abandoned everybody and went off to go on a crime spree with this younger man. Sounds like fun.
Midlife crisis, right?
Yes, pretty much.
Get a fucking sports car.
On the other hand, Barrie described her as a pushy, domineering woman.
Wait, what?
Which was completely not true, but that's how he framed it to be, was that she was always in a leading role. He also said that he called her mum and put her in this maternal kind of role.
Puke cauldron, pass it over.
Yeah, gross. Super gross.
Mum.
There was just a weird dynamic between them. They were always fighting. They had trouble getting along, but really when it came down to it, it seemed like Barrie took the lead. So he had a criminal past, and then it continued when they got together. They were committing grand theft, robberies, breaking and entering, all that kind of stuff.
I'm kind of turned on. Just keep... Ride or die, bro.
It seemed to come up while they were on their crime sprees that sometimes Valmae did not want to go along with things. This was something she wasn't used to. She didn't have this criminal history the way that he did. So she was a little scared, and sometimes she would put up a fight and say, I don't want to do this.
She's being really pushy.
How dare she? But when it came down to it, she had said, I didn't feel I had the qualities to hold a man, and I was terrified Barrie was going to leave me for a younger woman. So he would always threaten her. When she tried to say that she wouldn't do something, he would tell her, I could leave for someone else, because he knew that she had this issue. And he played on it, and he used it against her.
I'm so mad at both of them.
Yeah,
Dumb, dumb, dumb.
I know.
Dumb.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh.
Snap out of it.
Statistically, it's impossible for there not to be another person for her out there.
Right.
There's so many
Oh, now you're the math expert here. I thought I was the math person.
She has a vagina and a butthole and a mouth.
She can always find someone.
There's always...
These are, yes, universal truths.
It's what?
It's the universal 3-hole truth.
It's the holy triad, man. Yeah, so he's dumb and she's dumb. Sorry.
That is your editorial stance.
Yes, hate everyone in the story already.
One of the biggest issues within their relationship was that he had fantasies about schoolgirls.
Then she's dressing up like a schoolgirl.
Yeah, I mean, there's an easy fix to that.
Yeah.
You know, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
But he was not satisfied with that. I don't know if they tried that. I mean, maybe they need some life coaches like us to let them know how to get down. But whatever it was, he was not satisfied. And he said that she needed to help him to find girls.
No,
Yes.
my goodness. And she said no, right? Of course she
Oh,
said
yeah,
no.
yeah. She was like, no way. Mm-mm.
That's awful.
So they argued about it. It came up pretty frequently. He would not give it a rest.
You know, he's like, God, you know what I really want right now? Like, she's like, pizza? He's like, no, like a schoolgirl. Like,
I asked what you wanted for dinner. Yeah, I know what you said. I am responding.
same answer, schoolgirl. Lock it in.
What happened was that they would have fights about this pretty frequently. He would keep bringing it up, and sometimes it would escalate and he would get aggressive with her and insist that she needed to help him. It came up so often that eventually it escalated to the point where he told her he was going to leave. He was halfway out the door. If you don't make this happen for me, if we can't find a girl together, then I am not going to be in this relationship anymore. And she believed him. So they set out to start finding girls.
He's like nothing without her. Why is she doing all the fucking work? Sorry, this is stupid. You go find your own school.
Yeah,
girl.
she's the real power player in this game.
Seriously. And she has like no confidence about it. But if you took a step back.
But basically what he's saying is, I need you to get this schoolgirl.
Because I can't.
He's not going to be able to just walk up to some girl on his own.
Yeah.
He's saying to her that he needs her.
Yeah, he needs her. And she thinks that she needs him. It's unbelievable right now.
Yeah. This escalated quickly. Usually I start with the childhood, but this just gets right into it. So he was very clear with her that she needed to go out and find him a virgin.
What? She went too far. We said schoolgirl, okay?
Yeah, that's a leap right there.
Yeah.
Just because I'm in school doesn't mean I have my hymen.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
saying. Or my butthole hymen. Wait,
So
what?
belly button hymen? I popped that one first.
Just test it out. So in early October 1987, they drove to Queensland and rented a house. They were in a small community. There weren't a lot of people there.
Did they set up shop right next to a school?
And one of the reasons that his fantasies escalated and he started becoming really aggressive and pushy about it is because he had a vault of pornography. It was all young teen fantasy stuff, prostitute stuff, and he had left it at their old residence. So they were renting this new house. He was just fresh out of pornography and was going into a tizzy. And so that's why he started to really fight with her and get aggressive. Like, you need to help me with this or I'm just leaving. Like, I'm going back, moving without you. That's it. We're over. So once they were in Queensland and they moved there and they were at this new rental house, that's when their plan started taking place and he started pushing her to just go out and do it.
Little did he know, if you just close your eyes, your brain will think of whatever dirty stuff you want.
You got porn inside your brain at all hours of the day, man.
Like whatever
you're just not
you
utilizing your full potential.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Again, he's a weak person.
Yes.
Just so weak.
Indeed. Since he didn't have access to pornography, the two of them started setting out on a mission and they were looking for girls around Queensland. They visited a bunch of beaches and parks and stuff like that. But every time they would, I know that face. That's how I felt when I was reading it. I was just like, oh God. Because everybody knows that feeling as a woman of just minding your own goddamn business and then being watched.
You can feel it.
You can feel it. So these creepy motherfuckers were just rolling around to public places where there's a bunch of kids and young girls and creeping on them. They were having this issue, of course, when you're in a public place with a bunch of people, that every time they spotted a girl, then that person's friends would walk up, their family would walk up, or they would like leave. So they kept finding girls that they wanted, that Barrie was interested in, and then it would stop for some reason, even at the point where they were almost approaching them. And as that kept happening repeatedly, Barrie was getting pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like edging, but not.
Yes, edging, but just illegal.
Yeah.
Gross. Creepy. So they kept getting back in their car and driving around. So after having a bunch of false starts with their abduction, they finally stumbled upon Sian Kingi. She was at a bakery with her mom after school, getting a sweet, and then was going to ride home on her bike by herself. Her mom said goodbye to her at the bakery. She got on the bike to ride across the park on her own and was just headed home.
Why are they splitting ways?
Yeah, that I don't know. Well, it may have just been a matter of having a bike and not having a bike, and I don't know. But
True.
They were just kind of having a snack, and then she was like, okay, I'll see you at home. People describe Sian as really sweet and quiet, a little bit shy. She was very gentle and charming. She had a great smile, everybody said, and her personality was just really kind. Everybody had the same impression of her, was just that she was a very sweet girl. Mm-hmm. She was into sports, she was very athletic, and she was very active. And so she always rode her bike. It was just the thing that she did after school. She would ride her bike home. So on this day, she ran into Valmae and Barrie, who had said that they lost their poodle and they were looking for the dog. And they said, have you seen her? And Sian offered to help them, basically.
No.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I hate poodles. Get the fuck away from me.
Unfortunately, she was probably a dog person.
Me too, but I hate poodles. Poodles aren't dogs.
So she offered to help them, and in turn, they abducted her.
Fair trade.
So,
awful. That's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah. They wove this story of this like sweet white poodle with a pink bow and drew her in, and she was trying to be sweet and helpful. And unfortunately, while she was helping Valmae and kind of facing in one direction, Barrie came up behind her and put a cloth over her mouth and pulled her into their station wagon. Once they were in the car, she was gagged and bound, and then they put tape around her. They sped away from the park and headed out towards the forest.
You feeling nauseous right now? I don't know if I chug that coffee. I don't know why. I can just imagine it.
So they drove about 9 miles away from the park and then went off into a side road into the forest, at which point Valmae pleaded with Barrie, "Can we just let her go?" And Barrie said that she was being fucking stupid and that they couldn't trust her to not give them up, that they had to take her and they had to kill her. So they took her into the forest, and Barrie started giving Valmae instructions on taking the tape off. She cut the tape off with scissors and was careful not to cut her hair. And he wanted her to stay neat and look like she wasn't abducted, basically.
I hate that he doesn't do any of the work. Seriously,
I know.
he's so
just
lazy.
Instructing her the whole time. And she's giving some objections, but every time he's being either threatening or demeaning, and then she gives in. Once Barrie was done giving Valmae instructions about how to get her loose from the tape and whatnot, he laid out a blanket and he proceeded to sexually assault her for about the next hour. Once he was done, he said to Sian, "It's all finished now. It's all over." He instructed her to put her clothes back on, and he told her to lay on her stomach. And then he put his knee on her back, and he put his belt around her throat and strangled her to death. Once she was dead, he also stabbed her multiple times in the chest.
That's unnecessary.
Fucking overkill. By that time, it was about 7 o'clock. The sun was going down. They basically took her body down towards some water, a little bit further from where the assault happened, and then went back to their car and sped away. As they were driving away, Valmae packaged up all the weapons and restraints that they use, and then they went further away from the crime scene and got rid of them in the forest.
See, man, that's why you gotta love yourself, you know? Because
this is just a story about self-esteem.
It really is. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Like, he has no self-esteem. She has no self-esteem. Like, she had just asked him to not do it, yet you helped pack up the shit. You watched him stab her, and you watched him take a belt and put it around a little girl, like a girl's neck. And there's no way. I mean,
just love yourself.
Just love yourself. Shit. Ass and all. Stretch marks and all.
Yeah, I think that there's also, this happens in a lot of crimes that we see where people just get in too deep. After the crime is actually committed, then you have to dispose of all the evidence. You have to run. You have to be, you know,
hey,
you're just, yeah, exactly. People feel too much pressure and they don't want to report it.
Which you just fucked yourself. You had an opportunity to walk away and be like, you know what?
You could have turned him in.
I could.
Or you could have been like, hey, it's me or underage girls. Well, then bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I wore pigtails this time and threw on some knee socks, you know, make it a little bit better. Just take those fantasies and make them real in your bedroom.
In the bedroom.
Don't.
On the way home, Valmae was crying and Barrie was telling her not to be upset. He was trying to console her. They stopped at a grocery store. They picked up some milk and some cat food, and then they got to their rental house and they washed their dirty clothes and acted like nothing happened.
I'm sad they own a cat.
There is that too. The next morning, they got up and started cleaning out the car just to get rid of any trace evidence, fibers, hair, anything like that. So they washed the station wagon inside and out, it says. So I don't know if they hosed it down or I don't know what the deal is. A thorough washing.
Not like in Pulp Fiction where they spray the blanket. I think that's my second reference to that. Throw a blanket over it.
Right? Just pretend it's not there. It's invisible. It's a cloak of invisibility. The next day, Valmae was still pretty upset, and Barrie was still trying to convince her that everything was okay. In addition to saying that it's not a big deal and minimizing what happens, he also told her that he did not feel guilty at all. that everything was fine. I don't feel bad. You shouldn't feel bad. It's basically what he told her. In addition to saying that he didn't feel guilty, they had sex the day after the murder. So she's Eskimo sisters with a dead girl.
No.
Yes.
Sloppiest of the sloppiest seconds. That's sad.
Yeah.
Wow. And I bet you he was just telling her, like, because I guess if he's just saying he doesn't feel bad, then obviously she's going to not feel bad. Because if he starts saying, oh, I'm going to feel bad. Yeah, he's trying
to comfort her.
Then it's just going to.
But that shouldn't be comforting. That should be terrifying. Like, oh, this dude I'm with has no remorse for killing someone. That's fucking scary. When Sian disappeared, her mother and father, of course, were expecting her home because she was on her way home from school when it happened. So after a little while, they figured, okay, she ran into some friends. She was pretty popular, pretty social. So they didn't think anything of it for a couple hours. But after the sun went down and it got later and later, they started to go to the park and look for her. They couldn't find her. And after searching around for a little while, they went to report it to police. So they reported her missing around 8:40 that night. The news of her going missing spread really fast because it was still kind of early in the evening. They also got it into the local media. So they got a bunch of information out to the media and the community so that there were leads coming in the very next day super quickly.
Awesome.
Which was really positive. Everyone started looking, sending in tips, saying what they had seen, if they had been to the park, the whole 9 yards. Consequently, it was a very bad week for perverts and flashers in Queensland because people were reporting everything. Whenever they, like, a bunch of flashers got caught, a bunch of people that were pedophiles got reported. Everybody was reporting everything. So it was a very busy week for law enforcement. Even though during that time they didn't catch the actual killers, they were still bringing in a lot of people for questioning and kind of getting some other criminals off the street. A little interesting side note.
They did their job.
Yeah, there's that. And a lot of people that were the general public were kind of doing their duty to report it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas normally they'd be like, oh, whatever, that's suspicious, but not say anything.
But nobody says anything. The attorney of blind eye, basically.
Yeah. That was one of the positive things that came out of this. Looking on the bright side. So a couple people started reporting that they had seen their specific station wagon that they owned because it was very distinct. It was like white with a rack on the top, and people recall seeing it around the park, and they didn't know who these people were. Again, because it was a small community, people knew each other. So they were like, who are these two random people in this random station wagon I haven't seen? So they started reporting that. Along with the description of Sian, there was also a description of the car that was going around. So they started pulling over all the white station wagons in Queensland. So station wagons were being pulled over so often, and the station wagon drivers were getting so irritated by this that they were issuing these little cards that were like an all clear card. So basically the station wagons that were complaining and they were like, I've been searched 20 times this week or whatever, they'd give them a card to put in their dash and just say, this car has already been inspected. This is not our murder suspect.
Wow. It's like a fast track pass.
Exactly. Or it's like going through a DUI checkpoint, but you look too square.
How pissed would you be if you're like a complete pothead with a white station wagon?
Just like, oh, burn.
Guess I can't be
just
hot.
Painting it yellow.
No, mine's got a yellow spot of paint.
See, it's distinct. It's different. It's not the right station wagon. This is the weed station wagon.
Yeah. It happens all the time. Don't worry. No problem, officer.
So witnesses also began developing a description of Barrie and Valmae pretty quickly as well. They described him as a man in his early 30s with sun-bleached hair because he had kind of a surfer appearance at the time. So as the tips were pouring in, this description was developing, Valmae bleached her own hair and then dyed Barrie's hair dark and then cut his hair really short to look completely different than the descriptions that were in the newspapers.
Queer eye for the killers on the run.
Seriously. Since news was spreading of the description of the couple and also the station wagon, there was a local man that noticed a suspicious station wagon by his car. He had recently had his car broken into, so he was really on high alert, and he wrote down the station wagon number, and he put the license plate number in his car and then reported it to police. And this was the first lead that really was big for them. It was a break where they could trace it back to someone. At the same time that the information was coming in about the station wagon and they were tracing the numbers back, there was also a local man who was a farmer who was picking fruit out in the forest, and as he was walking back, he noticed a strange odor.
No.
At first, he didn't think anything of it, and he went home that night. But he saw the news and was reminded that there was a girl missing, and so he came back the next day and retraced his steps, and sure enough, he found Sean's body. So they took Sean's body in for autopsy. The pathology examination found massive cuts to her throat, through her spine, and also 12 stab wounds in her chest. Her cause of death, of course, was strangulation, as I said earlier, but there were some stab wounds that happened during her assault, and then the other ones happened afterwards. So he just kept going even after she was dead. Ugh, I don't even like talking about it.
Yeah, I just don't get how people, knives are tough, man, especially through a chest like that. And then that lady just watching.
I cannot. Yeah.
Tough.
I can't even imagine. Once the body was found, then Barrie and Valmae decided they really needed to leave town. There was nothing that disguises could do. They knew about the car. They knew how they looked. They found the body. They had to run. They packed a few clothes and went to Melbourne, and they decided to sell their car along the way, trying to get rid of that burn.
Like, hey, you want to buy the suspicious car that everyone's looking for?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take it.
These are real hot right now. Since police did have a license plate number, they had traced them to the rental property, and they barely missed them, basically. They were fleeing as the police were putting together their identities, and they started canvassing the neighborhood and asking the neighbors if they had seen the couple, and they had. So they had a positive identification of the killers.
Yes.
One of the things that the neighbors said they recall was that Barrie would be outside a lot washing the station wagon, and that he would approach local school kids on the street. Nobody had any reports of anything inappropriate happening, but there were a bunch of people that clearly noted that it was odd behavior that a grown man was just approaching school kids all the time.
Yeah. And they just sat by watching.
Yeah,
That's
this is weird behavior, but let me not report it.
I'm just going to sit here and watch and think about how that's weird.
That's strange. Let's
see if anything happened.
If you see something, say something. God damn it.
I don't know. I guess where's that line between like, okay, maybe it's nothing weird.
Yeah, it's hard to know, but
it doesn't get weird till they snatch him up and then you're like, oh shit, I knew it. I was right.
Yeah.
So I guess
hindsight is 20/20, but still.
Absolutely.
If it seems like enough people thought it was strange, you would think that a couple neighbors would be like, maybe one of us should report this. You know?
If a man is talking to children and they're not his kids, like, it's like under any circumstances.
And that's our stance on fathers.
Any person talking to kids that aren't the kids not lost.
I mean, kids are only lovable if they're your own. Is that what you're saying?
No, you just.
I'm not disagreeing. No.
No, I mean, unless you're buying drugs or they're your own kids, don't talk to kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I get all of my best drugs from kids.
Kids got the best shit.
The 13-year-olds, they hook it up.
Well, it's too expensive for my taste, though.
But still.
That's some high school
inflation.
Prices. Yeah.
In addition to talking to all the neighbors, they also executed a search warrant on the house. And there wasn't really much odd, except for that they saw that they were packing and they saw that they had the hair dye and stuff like that. But other than that, there was really no evidence of the crime. They just knew that they could identify that the killers had been there.
His porno stack was at his old house.
Right, exactly. They also traced down the station wagon that they got rid of and found that there was a little compartment, a man-made compartment for a firearm that he had made in the station wagon. So they considered him in the pursuit armed and dangerous.
Yeah.
Basically. They braced themselves for a firefight whenever they actually found the killers.
Wait, but they sold the car.
But they went to the lot where they had sold it.
Oh, okay.
Or the person, whatever.
Okay.
So they traced the car sale
Cool.
and found that person.
Okay, so they think he has
Or
his gun
maybe that
on
person
him.
was pulled over.
Yeah. How pissed would you be?
Yeah, seriously. So on Saturday, December 12th, an undercover cop spotted the couple at a grocery store. He saw that they were leaving a supermarket and he followed them to a motel. This undercover officer stayed outside of the motel, kept them under surveillance, and called it in. And very uneventfully, they were arrested and apprehended.
Boo.
I know. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
You were hoping for suicide by cop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel ya.
Or just some chase shootout.
The good news is, just as unfortunate as it is that it happened at all, I'm so grateful that they just got caught after one. Because
Yeah.
I could imagine, what if they were like Fred and Rosemary West, just going on for years and abducting more people. I try and focus on the hopefulness of the story. So they arrested them and they took them to the precinct and they started questioning them. During interrogation, initially, Barrie denied everything. And when I say everything, I mean he denied that his name was Barrie. He was presented a photograph of himself and his driver's license. He's like, that's not me. Like, the whole thing. The Shaggy defense.
That's exactly what I was. It wasn't me. It wasn't.
He had also coached Valmae to do the same thing. Beyond that, he had also told her to just make up this story that they had argued, that they had separated and walked off, and that neither one of them was at the crime scene, but nobody could basically corroborate where they were that night. Maybe he just didn't have confidence that she would lie well or something. I don't know what the deal was.
Like, don't fuck it up.
You know, right?
He's like, if you fuck this up, I'm never going to date you again.
Right. She's like, yes.
We're good.
And above all, Barrie had stressed to her never to confess to anything. Basically, he had coached her that even if the detectives came and said Barrie confessed, to never believe it unless she saw it come from his mouth. Because he knew that the cops would try and say that he confessed.
He already ratted
and use
on
that
you.
against her, you know?
Barrie said you did it.
Right. Exactly.
What's your rebuttal?
So she was in it. She was in this denial. Just said she didn't know anything. They weren't there. The whole thing.
She said, who's Barrie?
Yeah, right? It wasn't Barrie.
Someone banging on the counter.
Yeah, pretty
wasn't me. She even got me on the timer. She even got me on camera. Saw the marks on my shoulder. Heard the word that I told her. Heard the screams get louder. She said I did it
Your
while
voice
it's
is
over.
beautiful, man.
That's the wrong lyrics, bro. Oh, God.
You killed it, though. You did it. Instead of listening to Barrie, Valmae actually gave a short statement to detectives. She didn't give a lot of details, but she did say, yes, we had some involvement in the disappearance. In turn, what the detectives did is they took that statement to Barrie and said, she's given you up. And Barrie lost his shit. He's like, I want to speak to her, blah, blah, blah. Which normally would be very severely against the rules, right? Mm-hmm. But no.
Oh,
they were trying to play the two of them against each other. This is the part of the story that I really like.
Finally, some comedy. Oh, my God.
They went ahead and said yes. And they got the two of them in the same room. So at first, what they did after the initial statement is they brought her into his interrogation room. The detective said, I'll never forget this as long as I live. She came in and sat on his lap and held his ashtray while he smoked a cigarette. The two people who had done this terrible thing just as calm as they like.
Is that not normal? Is that every time I smoke my cigarette?
Not all of us have daddy issues.
That's just being polite. Like, just helping, doing
just
my
sit
duty.
on my booze lap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was just straight up being a servant.
A servant,
kind of.
yeah. And that
super
speaks
creepy.
to their relationship,
Exactly.
really.
The dynamic was playing out right in front of detectives. as Valmae was about to be taken away, like they heard the exchange, he was trying to reassure her and tell her not to give in and all this stuff. He tried to get her to kind of pledge her devotion to him and was like, you're going to stick by me, you promise? And she was like, yes, I will.
Pinky
and then
swear.
he said it again. Like he kept doing this weird repetitive tactic where he asked her like 2 or 3 times, you promise you're not going to rat me out? And she's like, I will. You promise you're not going to give me up? I will.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Wait, but if they're under watch, can't the cops see him say, hey, don't rat me out? And they're like, oh, you're guilty. Or do you do need it like an admission of guilt, right?
Yeah, I think
say,
the
hey,
technicality is you really need someone saying, yes, I did this, not don't say that I did this, because that's not technically an admission of guilt. It's just very guilty behavior.
Okay. I get confused. Help me think, Brianna.
No, that is there is a subtle difference there, of course, because they can't really, you have to have a very straightforward signed confession if you're going to use that kind of evidence.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're looking at forensics and stuff like that. When you're looking at someone's, their account of the crime, they have to straight up say, I did this. Or you have to take their words and kind of pick them apart and kind of say, oh, a guilty person would say this, but that doesn't hold up as well in court. You could still use it, but of course they want a fucking confession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could use it in court to make you seem guilty in front of a jury without having you admit something, whereas that's an actual I did it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the goal, of course, for a lawyer would be to get a statement that you can't poke holes in and you can't cast doubt on. They were trying to get them in the same room just to get one of them to crack and give a statement, basically. That was the ultimate goal.
Doesn't sound like they did.
Not yet. So after Valmae was taken away, she spent the next few hours with a detective who really set out on the mission to gain Valmae's trust and let her know that the cops aren't the bad guys, that Barry's the bad guy, and that she's been played and that she's been the one that's also been victimized. And it worked.
What?
Yeah. So after only a few hours of being with this detective, Valmae gave a full confession. For 9 hours, she confessed and recounted every aspect of the crime.
Holy shit.
And her written confession was 29 pages long.
Shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Damn, he unhit, what's that word when they get you out of a cult? Not brainwash you, but
oh, yeah.
I know they do it to a lot of people who are in cults.
Weren't we talking about it with the Helzer brothers? Because they brought in a specialist.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll come to us. I bet you people
Deprogramming.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. She got deprogrammed. Way to go, good cop. That's crazy. I would love to know what that interview went like.
Yeah. Because what are the kind of tactics that you use to really gain someone's deep down trust and convince them that this person that they've really been kind of held hostage by is the bad guy?
Yeah.
When that's been their god for years now. You know?
You're not even a person. You're a thing. You're not even, you don't even matter. How did he get her to make herself she's so insecure and doesn't even care about anything. How did he get her to see she's a person?
Yeah.
That takes something. And he doesn't even know her.
Right. To have a stranger come in and do that. And to do it so well and thoroughly that she gives 9 hours and 39 pages of testimony or whatever.
How much detail could you? 9 hours.
One of the most crucial pieces of information that Valmae gave up was that she told them where the bundle of weapons, murder scene items were. So including the knife, the belt that was used, and all the tape and stuff. Okay. She gave up the information of where to locate that bundle of items. And sure enough, they found it. So they were able to use it as evidence. So on December 15th, 1987, they were both formally charged with Sian Kingi's murder. When Valmae's confession was shown to Barrie, he was livid, beside himself. And he taunted the detectives and he said, you might know what happened, but you've got to prove it.
Correct.
Which is honestly the smartest thing he's said.
Yeah, seriously.
It's just accurate. It's not even smart. Let me take that back. It's just like, yeah, I mean, even though they know the details, they still have to prove it in court. But each step of the way, they're gathering more witnesses, more evidence, more confession. So he's really up against a wall.
Signed confession. We found the evidence. Somebody found the body. We have eyewitness accounts. Yeah, good luck. No, you're right. We don't need all that. But
yeah. At least it was accurate.
Yeah, exactly. We just have to prove. That's hilarious. I guess all you have left is to taunt a cop.
Right. And that's your last move is just be like, yeah, well, your mom. I know you are, but what am I?
Excellent police work. It seemed like all around, like things, either it was luck plus good police work, but it seems like things just really came together and worked out for the best in that story.
That's one of the reasons I chose this story, is because things kind of happened quickly and worked well, and there was only one victim, because I just don't want to go through another cycle of like victim after victim and police mess ups and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted one where it's like, oh, okay, this bad thing happened, but everybody banded together, and as far as bad things happening go, it kind of worked out, you know?
I feel like the town kicked ass on this one as a whole. Like the enforcement, the people,
just like Echo Park with Richard Ramirez.
Yes, exactly.
After they were charged with murder, he was really mad about the confession, and they again put the two of them back in holding cells next to each other. So since they were still in the process of being booked and all this stuff, they were able to keep them in the same facility.
Oh, nice.
While they had the two of them in adjoining cells, they had audio and video surveillance set up, as well as an undercover cop planted in the cell next to them to be a witness to everything happening and to record everything. A couple things happened as a result of this. First of all, the officer that was undercover had a nervous breakdown.
That's not funny. That's kind of funny. That's not funny.
No.
No, but, you know.
But clearly they were driving him crazy.
Yeah.
In addition to that, the surveillance of the couple revealed that they would fight constantly. He was very verbally abusive to her and constantly demeaning her. He, of course, was putting blame on her because she had confessed, and he said, you gave them everything.
Yeah.
They didn't really have anything solid on us until you gave them all the information, which wasn't even true, but he was feeding that into her head.
You imagine they're just sitting there, the couple is together, 99 bottles of beer on the wall. That would drive me crazy.
Right.
On the first day of Christmas. That's a good way to weed out narcs around you.
Yes.
It'd be so annoying.
Instead of asking, are you a cop? Just start singing.
Yeah. Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Barrie told Valmae, no one saw us pick her up and throw her in the car. No one actually saw her in our car. No one saw us kill her. If you hadn't confessed, they wouldn't have a case. So he was trying to guilt her and make her feel shitty and shame her for giving up the truth.
And burning himself at the same time, kind of?
Right, exactly. And also not very accurate because they have all the evidence and maybe not eyewitnesses that saw the murder take place. However, they had witnesses placing them at the site of the abduction and leaving the scene and all that. So they had everything but, you know. They gained a lot of information to use in the trial from these tapes from the holding cells. There was about 4 hours of tapes played in the trial. But they had something like 30 hours or 40 hours of taped interaction between them, between the interrogations and coming back to the holding cell and whatnot. Every time they were moving, they would just record them. So an hour here, an hour there, and it all added up to a lot. They turned on each other multiple times within this couple-day period, of course. But eventually, at the end of it, they professed their undying love for each other. And they planned out their wedding anniversary, which was coming up. And their plan for their wedding anniversary was a suicide pact. But I'm going to call bullshit on this. My theory is that he was trying to convince her to commit suicide before the trial.
Oh, wow. That's a really good idea. You should be a murderer.
Thanks, dude. You're like my best guidance counselor ever. Yeah, I think that really he was the one that was pushing that because they both spoke about it like, oh, we're going to do this and whatnot. But I think he was the driving force behind it because that would make sense tactically to get rid of her, the person that had made the confession, you know? So anyway, they went back and forth. There was a lot of information. That was one of the things. It was just their relationship and their tumultuous interactions and weird dynamic. But on top of that, he admitted that he wanted to do it again and he had no remorse. So they had him on tape for the trial saying, if I could do it again, I would. And I definitely plan on taking more young girls.
When they played that, did he just look over and then, it wasn't me?
Right?
Fuck. That's not me. I don't even...
They even got me on camera.
It wasn't me. What an idiot. Why would you ever, like, if you're in a cell, you should, or just in custody, you probably shouldn't talk about how you'd like to repeat the crime that you're trying to get out of.
You would think, right?
Just maybe wait till we're in the privacy of our own home.
Right? Of our own cell.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait for conjugal visits.
Yeah, wait till you're through with this one at least. I mean,
but it proved really helpful in trial, of course.
Yeah, thank God.
Know? So again, it's just another circumstance of everything happening in the right way where the criminal gets caught and held accountable. So the trial got tons of media attention because of the involvement of the community, because there was really no remorse and there was this very tumultuous couple at the center of it. They really latched onto it and the community was like waiting outside the courthouse and everything. One man even ran a noose above the flagpole at the courthouse. There was a lot of negative attention and people were very angry.
That doesn't seem good. A noose?
You're not for that?
I'm not for killing because of killing. You know what I mean? Sounds.
I can play you some podcast footage or audio that would differ. I could.
Did I just totally? I mean, I guess
sometimes
I'm not,
you flip flop.
I am a flip flopper, of course. My whole life.
It depends on the story because we always just hate the murderers, you know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I know
you do believe in.
I want to kill everyone.
Justice.
Yeah, I do believe in vigilante justice, especially when I'm on my period. So it's probably not surprisingly. Fine, let's go kill people who kill. God, you got me back over to my side.
I won you over.
Woo. Yeah, no, that's cool, I guess. It's just in front of a government building that I think,
I think
allowed that?
It's just, I don't know. I just bring it up to kind of point out how angry people were.
Yeah,
you know,
that's awesome.
People were really upset. But I mean, they had every right to be upset.
Absolutely.
One of their own children in their community got literally taken off the streets. Mm-hmm. It could have been anybody's kid, you know. So there was just a lot of coverage. It was in the news every day, and there were people outside the court. Valmae Beck was sentenced to 3 years for the abduction, 10 years for the rape, plus life for the murder.
Bravo. Thank goodness.
And then Barrie was sentenced to 3 years for the abduction, 15 years for the rape, and life for the murder. The judge on the trial recommended that Barrie's papers be marked never to be released in his statements.
Add note. I like that it's 10 years for rape. I feel like that would have been switched. It would have been like 2 years for abduction, 3 months for rape.
Right. It's always so
4
much
years
less.
for murder.
Yeah, it feels like it's appropriate.
Yeah,
you know?
no, definitely.
I do feel like the sentencing is appropriate, which is another positive aspect of this case.
Go Australia.
After that, Barrie was also tried in 1995 for the murder of Helen Mary Feeney, but he was acquitted of that crime, even though Valmae had testified that Barrie was the one that murdered Helen because Helen had caught Barrie in the middle of trying to break into her car. Mm-hmm. And because she caught him, he attacked her and then murdered her and burned her at their house. That's the story according to Valmae, but for some reason there wasn't enough evidence to find him guilty in that.
I'm mad at both of them. This is the second time.
Yes.
Oh, no.
It's worth bringing up even though he was acquitted. There were other cases that detectives were trying to link to this couple as well, because they were like, we have these unsolved, we have these missing girls. And so for the next however many years, they were trying to link the cases, but nothing ever stuck. But that doesn't mean that Sian Kingi was the only victim for these two.
Why not? It couldn't
I don't
be.
think so.
No way.
Yeah.
You feel like he just knew, like, usually there's kind of like mistakes and stuff like that, but he got her, you know, did the whole belt thing, knew how to dispose of everything.
It didn't seem like his first time, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. I know.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So they divorced in 1990.
Oh, they divorced?
I know. True love doesn't always win. In 2007, Barrie finally confessed to her murder.
And the truth shall set you free.
Exactly. Yeah, he didn't confess to any other murders, and it, you know, took a full however many years, decades, for him to come to that. But he did confess to it.
You got life already.
Yeah, I mean, really.
The fuck?
I mean, the day after your sentencing, you should say something, but whatever. You can't expect much from a criminal these days.
True.
In prison, Valmae changed her name to Faye Cram, which is a fantastic name.
I mean, Faye's better than
Faye
Valmae.
Cram. It's spelled like crumb with an A. I don't know. There's something about
Wait,
it.
how
It's
else
just
did you
not
spell?
right.
Oh, I was like, how else do you spell cram? But I forgot you actually do spell cram differently. Like, this I'm so stupid. Cram.
So she had some troubles in prison. She didn't get along with other inmates, had a lot of problems resulting from her being the abductor of an underage girl and being the accomplice in a sexual assault. So other prisoners had a lot of fights with her, and she eventually was transferred a couple times.
Oh, she's getting broom fucked.
Yeah, she had a very hard time. Police tried to interview her and get connections to other cases, but other than the one that Barrie was acquitted for, they really didn't have anything. They hoped that eventually she would come forward, but unfortunately she had heart surgery that she had complications on, and she was in a coma for a little while. And the detectives were trying to like get a deathbed confession and hoping that she would wake up and give some more details, but she never did. So she died in 2008.
Good.
The end.
I imagine she had like a very Wentworth like stay in prison, because that's all I imagine.
I have not watched Wentworth, and I'm sorry. But she did not have fun, if that's what you mean. It was very difficult for her.
Wentworth is kind of fun, and it's very lesbian-like.
Cool.
And tough. Tougher than Orange is the New Black.
Tough.
But yeah, I hope her ride was tough and dirty, and I hope she had a really hard rest of her life.
It seems like she did. Yeah.
Word up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm back on Vigilante. She goes, is that?
I knew it. I knew you'd come around. Yeah, I like this story. I know that some of the details were a little bit more intense than I like to get into. However, I really like how much the community stepped up, how much people just reported everything that they saw. The cops were on top of it from day one. Mm-hmm. It really was a matter of a couple weeks, or a matter of days between the time that the abduction happened and the time that they had suspects in custody.
Yeah.
Which is so rare.
Yeah, it didn't go cold.
And so Australian. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't know. It really made me feel very hopeful, because it just gets very tedious and depressing to talk about the stories where someone goes free for so long.
Yeah, and the stupid mistakes that could have just shit that could have been avoided. People could have just double checked or done their job in the first place, or just not just focused in on one suspect while the other person who did it, or the person who did it, just gets away.
Runs free.
Yeah. Yep. Racism, nothing like that. It didn't play a role. Everything worked the fuck out.
It seems like everything was done by the book. Everything worked out,
Yeah. This is how things should be.
Exactly. And it's just, I don't know, it's so devastating that they took a little girl off the street. It's just heartbreaking, but
she's been helpful.
To have the community just look out for her and treat it as though it was their own child is really, really positive and makes me feel hopeful,
Yeah. You ready to cry? I feel like we do this once a month. Like, it's always fucking periods. Giggles and periods.
This is for our male listeners. We should have a disclaimer, like timestamps for every time we talk about periods.
Yeah, exactly. When we start being timestamp for when we start being women.
Right. Anything feminine, we will do timestamps for in the description, so you can just turn it down and go on with your male privilege.
They're just jerking off for 30 seconds.
That's my jerk break. You get to be girls and I get to jerk it.
I might want to jerk it instead of fucking being a girl.
I so would prefer that.
Tears or cockstroke? Take the stroke.
Yep, and that's the story.
That was a great story.
That's my Queensland story. Yeah. We'll have another one next week.
From Queensland?
Yep. So I think it's getting a little late for us to do iTunes reviews. So you want to just wrap it up? I know.
You do want me to cry. Yeah, no, we can wrap it up.
Since we're running short on time, we'll just kind of wrap it up. We want to make sure to remind you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you check out the links in the description and show notes for victims' resources if you need them, for suicide awareness hotlines, domestic violence, and child protective services, anti-bullying, anything like that will be in the show notes. There's links there, as well as links to my research for tonight. So if you wanted to check out any further reading on the story that we discuss, go ahead and check the description. And we wanted to thank our Patreon supporters for this week: Kay, Jasmine, Michelle, and Paul.
Thanks, guys.
Cool?
Cool.
We wanted to remind you to leave an iTunes review. If you left one this week, we will definitely say thank you next week.
Who's going to be the 100th person?
Who's going to be our magic winner?
I'm going to go review ourselves.
Right? It's you.
You guys lose. I love to win.
That's true. All right. So thank you again to our Patreon supporters for this week and our iTunes reviewers. And we will see you next week.
Yeah. See you
True
next
Crime
week.
and Chill.
Yeah. Come rub my back.
I'll be right there. Bye.
This is Esther, host of Once Upon a Crime, a podcast that shares true crime stories chapter by chapter. Crimes are covered within series like, we're in the series Monstrous Moms and Dastardly Dads. This is Chapter 2, John List. Killer Kids. Chapter 1, Jesse Pomeroy. Murder in Paradise. Chapter 3, Missing in Aruba. This is Chapter 1, A Woman Scorned, Betty Broderick. As a storyteller, I share not only the details of the crime, but also my research into the backgrounds of the victims and perpetrators to try to understand why events unfolded as they did and to offer clues into how and why these crimes occurred. You can find more about the show on truecrimepodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Good call on McDonald's for lunch.
Yeah, let's eat.
Okay, we have the oh yeah for me.
Can you hand me my
Yep, and here are a couple of woot-woots to share.
I love my woohoo!
Oh, sounds like Stacy went to McDonald's too.
For a limited time, grab a hot and spicy McChicken and small fries for just $3 at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal.